Welcome to the Growing in Love for Life podcast, where it's all about saving and strengthening your marriage and creating the relationship you really deserve and want to have. And now, from growinginloveforlife.com, relationship and marriage coach and best-selling author, your host, Liam Naden.
This is episode 24 of the Growing in Love for Life podcast. Hi everyone, it's Liam Naden here, and welcome to our latest episode. And it's hard to believe this is episode number 24 in our series. And remember, you can always listen to any of the earlier episodes, the other 23 of them. They're all available on my website, liamnaden.com, so you'll find those listed there. Anyway, today I want to carry on with our series of giving you ideas and ways to help you save and strengthen your marriage. And I've got what I think is another very interesting topic to talk about. But before I do, I just wanted to let you know about some very exciting news. Now, if you're in the situation where you're wanting to work on your marriage or save it, and your husband or wife doesn't want to, then I have a brand new program coming out, and it's being launched on the 1st of May, and it's going to be perfect for you. And it's called Save Your Marriage When Your Spouse Doesn't Want to. So I think that pretty well sums it up. And you know, my Save Your Marriage program is a very powerful system for helping people to transform their marriages. But what I've found is that many people on the program are wanting to save their marriage and they're not getting any cooperation from their spouse at all. And while I do cover that and a lot of aspects of that in the Save Your Marriage program, it's not the absolute focus of the program. So what I've done is I've created this new program is, if you like, a turbocharger for those people whose spouse wants a divorce or who's walking out on them, or maybe already has, but they're completely uncooperative, resistant and hostile to the idea of saving their marriage. So this new program, Save Your Marriage When Your Spouse Doesn't Want to, so this new program is going to be launched on the 1st of May. And I'm going to have a very special introductory offer on that program. So if you would like to be kept informed about that, and if you'd like to know what that offer is and be informed about when this program's being released, just make sure you go and sign up on my website for the free report at growinginloveforlife.com. growinginloveforlife.com. And when you sign up for that free report, you'll also receive an update next week, or before the program is launched, with a very special introductory offer and details on how you can get that. And the other thing is, if you are already a member of my Save Your Marriage Relationship Transformation program, then you're going to get this new program absolutely free as part of your membership. And if you're thinking of joining my Save Your Marriage program, if you'd really like to, if you've been maybe listening to some of my podcasts and you've been considering joining that program, the other thing is, if you join before the 1st of May, then you'll also get this new program, Save Your Marriage When Your Spouse Doesn't Want to. You're going to get that program free as well. So if you want to sign up for the Save Your Marriage program and get this free and get the new program for free, then you can get all of the details at liamnaden.com/program. And if you'd just like to be kept informed about the introductory offer on the new program, then just go to growinginloveforlife.com and sign up there. Alright, so let's get on to our topic today. And funnily enough, it's quite timely for the release of my new course, the Save Your Marriage When Your Spouse Doesn't Want to course, because what I'm called the topic today is what to do when your spouse won't cooperate. And what do you do when you really want to save and strengthen your marriage, and you're putting in a lot of effort and you're doing everything you can? So what do you do when you really want to save and strengthen your marriage? And when you're putting in a lot of effort and you're doing everything you can, you're doing what you think are all the right things, yet no matter what you do, your husband or wife just isn't responding. I mean, maybe they're carrying on regardless. Perhaps they're still insisting that you separate or get a divorce. Or perhaps they're still ignoring you or treating you badly. They might be refusing to communicate in the way you'd like, or they could even be carrying on with an affair And it could be, of course, an emotional affair where maybe they're texting with someone inappropriately, or they're on the phone all the time, or they're on Facebook. But whatever it is, if you're in that situation, I know that it's very easy to become despondent and disheartened and even more upset with the whole situation. You know, the whole thing just doesn't seem fair, does it? It's as if you're putting in all this effort and your spouse is just carrying on doing exactly what they want, when they want, and seemingly with very little or none at all consideration for you. Well, as I mentioned earlier, my new program is going to show you exactly what to do if you're in that situation. But today I want to give you some ideas that you can do in the meantime, or just some ideas that I think will really help you if you are in that situation. Now, the first thing to realize is that if you have a spouse who wants to leave and you want to stay together, then you've really got one of the most difficult situations you could ever face. And in fact, I think it's probably the most difficult situation in any marriage or relationship. And the problem is now, of course, what it really comes down to is that you and your husband or your wife, you basically are wanting different things. And that's a difficult situation to be in, isn't it? But essentially what's happened and why this has occurred is because as we move along in our relationship, so as you and your wife or your husband have moved along together, things have changed. Now that might seem pretty obvious, but the truth of the matter is, and I think often we forget about this, but change is a fact of life. You know, everything in the world is in a constant state of change. And over the course of time, you have changed, and you still are actually, we're all constantly changing, and your spouse has changed and is changing, and your marriage and life situation has changed. So everything has changed massively since the time the two of you got together. And where the conflict comes in a relationship is because a lot of the time we don't understand the changes and we don't accept the changes. You know, we want things to be the way they were in our marriage. And sometimes, of course, we tend to look back with rose-coloured spectacles and thinking that things actually were better than they probably were. But we find it difficult to accept that things are different. So what you need to realise and accept is that both you and your spouse have changed, and that there's nothing wrong with that. In fact, it's perfectly natural. And of course, they're a different person from the one you married, and you're a different person as well. Now, what I'm really getting at here, and why I'm talking about this thing about change, is that what you need to do is you need to take away the expectation that they should want to stay married to you. Because if you expect them to be loving, and for you to have a great relationship just because you have in the past and because you want to and that's how you feel, then all you're really going to do is put pressure on them and make them feel bad. And when you do that, when you put pressure on them, when you make them feel bad, that is actually the fastest way to drive anyone away from any relationship, but especially an intimate relationship or a marriage. What you've got to do is you've got to take away your expectations, what you expect and want to happen in your relationship. And keep reminding yourself that expectations means pressure, and pressure will push your spouse away. Okay, well, so we've established that expectations and pressure are what you need to eliminate, but I'm sure you're probably thinking to yourself, well, that's all well and good, but how do I do that? How do I actually stop expecting them to behave in a certain way? And how do I take the pressure off them and not be disappointed when they won't cooperate and do what I'd like them to do? And what I think is going to be best for our marriage. Because after all, I love them. I have feelings for them and I want to have a great marriage. I don't want us to just split up I don't want to have a life of misery together. So what do I actually do to remove this expectation and pressure? Well, I've got a few things here which are things that you can do. And they're things that you're going to find will help alleviate the pressure in your marriage. And once you start doing that, you're going to see some further changes in your relationship. And of course, remember, change is inevitable. In fact, change is the only constant there is in life. But hopefully now these are going to be changes for the better. And even just by taking the pressure off, the air is going to get clearer. And that's when you're going to find, and only then, are you going to find that your spouse will start responding to you in a more positive way, which is of course what you want, isn't it? Alright, so the first way to get rid of pressure and expectation, the first thing to do is to get rid of the feelings that you need to be married to your spouse for you to be happy. You don't. Now, of course, you want to be married to them, and you want them in your life, and you want to feel all of the good feelings that having them in your life gives you, or used to anyway when things were good between you. But seriously, it could be possible. In fact, if you really, really had to, and if your life depended on it, it could be possible for you to find someone else to have a happy relationship with. Now, of course, you don't want to do that. Of course. But you could if you had to, couldn't you? So what I'm getting at here is you don't need your spouse for you to be happy. And when you really realize that, when you really get it, you'll be amazed how much happier you'll start to feel and how much pressure will come off you. And of course, nothing's going to have changed on the outside. You'll still be married, you'll still be in your current situation with all the good and the bad, maybe a bit more bad at the moment, but you'll have changed on the inside. And this is a key point, that it's really true that when things change on the inside for you, then and only then will you start to see them change on the outside. So this is a really important thing, and it's the first thing I'd say to do, that when you really get it, that you want to be married and you want things to work out and be happy between you, but you don't need to be in the relationship, then that's a really key distinction that's going to take a lot of pressure off. And pressure off you as well as off your marriage. Alright, the second thing is you need to start to focus on yourself and your happiness. Ask yourself, how can you be happy? In case you'd forgotten, and I covered this very early on in one of the very first podcasts that I did, in case you'd forgotten, life is actually about being happy. And your life is about you being happy. And so often we forget this when things are tough in our relationship. We're working so hard on trying to fix all our problems, and we're trying hard to make our spouse feel happy, that we forget that we're actually supposed to be happy as well. In fact, that's the main thing that's supposed to be happening in our life, is for us to be happy. And we tend to think, oh well, when the problems are solved, when I've solved my problems and when our marriage is back together, then I'll be happy. But no, don't do that. Just as you don't need your marriage for you to be happy, you don't actually need to solve all of your problems, including those in your marriage, for you to start to be happy. And there are plenty of things that you could do now, I'm sure you could think of, that would make you feel good. Some of them might involve your spouse, but a lot of the things you could do on your own. So why not make a list of what some of these things are and start doing them? And start doing them today. Start doing some good stuff that makes you feel happy today. And in case you're thinking, I'm being selfish, no, you're not being selfish. Because if you saw your children, think of it this way, if you saw your children or even your spouse doing something that made them happy, would you tell them to stop because they should be focusing on their problems instead? No, surely not. You'd be happy for them. You'd be glad to see that they were happy. So why not treat yourself with the same love and respect? You deserve to be happy. You know that you do. So why not start to do some things that are going to make you happy? Now the third thing, and this is a biggie in terms of taking pressure off your spouse and off your relationship, off your marriage, is allow your spouse to make mistakes. And this is such a big thing that, of course, I've actually covered it in a whole podcast episode. I did a whole podcast episode on mistakes and what they mean and how they can help your marriage. So you might like to listen to that if you haven't already. That's episode number 19. But the truth is, your spouse is going to make mistakes. So allow them to. They're going to go off and do stupid things. They might have had an affair. They might start texting someone that's inappropriate. They might yell at you, or they might tell you they want a divorce. But if they've made mistakes, then it's because they just do make mistakes. Everybody does, including you. Really, have a listen to episode number 19, podcast number 19 on mistakes, and it will help you become clear about that. But just accept and allow your spouse to make mistakes. honestly, it's going to take a whole lot of pressure off your marriage if you start to see mistakes as something people do, rather than expecting your spouse to be perfect. And being perfect and not making mistakes is not part of being a human being, is it? So that's the third thing. Just allow them to make their own mistakes in their own life. And the fourth thing, and this is quite a big one, and it's related to the previous one, but if you can get this, it will make a big difference. And that is to change the meaning of what's hurting you. Now here's something that is one of the greatest truths, I think, to a happy life that I've ever heard, and I know it really is true, but you know that if you feel hurt, it doesn't actually come from what someone else has done to you or is doing. It actually comes from what you think that what that person did, what you think it actually means. And it's always because you have different expectations about what that person should or shouldn't have done, or should or shouldn't be doing. So people say to me, well, I'm really hurt because my wife had an affair and she shouldn't have done that. Or they say, he shouldn't be so cold towards me, or he should consider my feelings, or she should consider my feelings. But when you think about it, why should they? Because people are actually only doing one thing in their entire life. They're trying to be happy. And to be honest, that's the only thing they should be doing. So instead of reacting and being hurt and saying, my wife or husband should or shouldn't have done that, ask yourself a different question, a much more powerful question. Ask yourself, I wonder why they have done that. Maybe they're not happy. Well, they're obviously not happy. And maybe there's something I can do to help them with that. Or maybe they'll just have to figure it out on their own. Or maybe there's a completely different reason and they're not actually trying to hurt me at all. But whatever it is, try to figure out what you really feel hurt by. And whatever it is that they have or haven't done that does make you feeling hurt, see if you can find a different meaning for their behaviour. And some of those questions I've just mentioned are going to be able to help you do that. Lastly, and this is an important one too, if your spouse isn't cooperating with you, if you're really putting in a huge effort to saving your marriage or just making it better and getting rid of some of the problems and the pain between you, and they're just not cooperating, then remember, just give it some time. I mean, things do take time to work, and things are going to change. That's the good news. Your situation right now is not going to stay the same. And your spouse is not going to keep acting the way they are now forever. Of course, if you continue to work through the ideas I've shared in this podcast, and in fact in all the other Growing in Love for Life podcasts, and your spouse still isn't responding positively to you, then at some point you are going to have to make a decision. And that decision is, are you going to keep trying or have you had enough? Now, I can't tell you how long that will take, but I can tell you, you will reach that point, and you'll start to realize at that point that you do deserve to be happy. You do deserve to be treated well. And the funny thing is, at that point, when you really start to value yourself, and you realize that you don't need your marriage for you to be happy, and you work on your own happiness first, that's when you may well find that your spouse starts to see that too, and start to cooperate with you, and want to be with you in creating a great marriage. And that's all to do with taking the pressure off, which is really what I've been talking about in this podcast. So don't give up, don't despair, try some of these ideas from this podcast today. Take heart that when your spouse isn't cooperating with you, there are things you can do, and you can definitely make a difference. So that's it for today. Remember, if you would like to know about the special introductory offer on my new program, which is Save Your Marriage When Your Spouse Doesn't Want To, which is being released on the 1st of May, then make sure you sign up for the free report at growinginloveforlife.com. And if you've been thinking about joining my Save Your Marriage Relationship Transformation program, now's the time to do it, because as I said, if you sign up between now and the 1st of May, you're going to get the new program included absolutely free. And you can find out about that program at liamnaden.com/program. So thanks for listening. I really hope you found these ideas thought-provoking and helpful. If if you really want to save and strengthen your marriage much more quickly, easily and powerfully, then I'll hope you'll join me in one of my programs. But otherwise, as I say, I hope you found this useful, and I hope it makes a positive difference if you start to apply some of this information. I've really enjoyed sharing it with you. I love the feedback I get. Thank you very much to the people who email me and send me messages about the difference it's making to their relationship. It's really heartening to hear. I wish you all the best for your marriage, and I really hope that you create for yourself and your spouse the only sort of marriage worth having, and that's a great one. So until next time, bye for now.